All right, we are finally back with a Nerc update. Haven't done one in quite some time. Wearing these glasses for Ryan McInerney only. It's been a while. It's been a long year, and haven't really had a chance to go on and do a live update. So figured, what time is better than now to hop on, have kind of a little bit of a freebie day here. Works a little slow. Hopping on to do one of these updates. These are tough when, kind of just talking to myself the entire time and having to go through the entire league and try to touch base and kind of give kudos to, teams, players, captains, whatever it may be, talk about latest things that have happened in the league as far as crazy stuff goes. There's been quite a bit of that happening, to be honest with you. So let's just start with last week with the craziness. So last week, I had a little bit of a fight between Bad News Bears and Cafe Carmela. It seems like those two teams just simply don't see eye to eye and don't get along. So they had a little bit of a riff. We had to suspend 4 players, 3 basically for fighting, 1 for coming off the bench during a fight, though that player really was going in there to kind of mitigate things and just kind of protect his brother, who was not even the person kind of causing the issue in the beginning. There's been kind of a few players like that we try to wean out, try to give them second chances, sometimes third chances, and at some point you're just going to get kicked out of the league either by myself or by your own team. And it seems like, this is one of those things where it's gotten to that point where nobody wants to be around certain players, and it's just creating a big issue. So got rid of that kind of situation. First time we had to really suspend anybody. Like, things happen, guys get in altercations, guys may get like game ejections where it really only carries over for that game. This one had to carry over for additional games just because the game had to stop. There were so many guys involved in it that the game had to be stopped just due to the lack of people that were left to play the game. So with that being said, first time in a long time that we've really had to do that for a game. So we also had some wildness last night with, goalie not showing up, team getting mercied. So that's another one where, like, if your goalie doesn't show up and you play with 5, I mean, generally that team loses. Unfortunately, in this situation, it seemed like the team kind of had their best players there and were able to control the puck and really just work it as if it was a power play and win the game. So there's nothing I can really do about that. I mean, generally, if your goalie doesn't show up, someone, and I agree with this part, should buck up and hop in net. Like, they had a goalie on their team, though he hasn't played goalie in some time. They had a goalie on their team that could have very well just hopped in net just for one game. It's Copper Division, though he hasn't played goalie in some time. And quite honestly, there's plenty of guys that would just hop in, or if a goalie got there late, in the first period or something like that, could have hopped in. It seems like that wasn't the case. No one stepped up to the plate. And of course, I was going to be there last night. I decided to not go just because there wasn't too many teams that, really owe money, and it wasn't, tonight's kind of a bigger night as far as that goes, and go figure, I leave and I could have hopped in, and I've been actually looking for some games in net. So that kind of happened last night. So aside from that, there really hasn't been too much craziness other than like the Eagles stuff, just kind of working the schedule around the Eagles. And that will just kind of take us right into our Sunday league. Now, what's nice about going live here is I can actually do some stream here. So what's nice about this is that I'm going to be able to show you everything that's going on with the league. So let's kind of just take a quick peek at the standings here. So we're going to start just exactly in order on how it goes. First, we have our Silver Division. So our Silver Division, we've spoken about, is built a little differently, where you're only going to get 9 regular season games, and then you're going to get a best of 3 playoffs, just because you don't want to play an unbalanced schedule. So how it works with 4 teams is you're going to play every team 3 times, because you remove your team from the situation, and then you're going to have a best of 3 playoff. Also, one thing I was trying out with the Silver Division is the in-season cup. Pretty much how it's working at this point is My team, the Liberty, has secured that cup because we had 4 wins with the cup, though we lost it last week to the Stickheads. The Stickheads, well, I guess technically they could tie us in that regard, but we beat them 2 out of 3 times. So we will kind of win that head-to-head tiebreaker. So we've secured the in-season cup, which is a $200 cash prize for that team. I would eventually, if I can find a sponsor for this, I would love to get a sponsor for the in-season cup and do this for all divisions. I've really tried it in just this division because it was our smallest divisions out of all the leagues that we have. This is our smallest one. So I wanted to see how hard it would be to manage that on a week-to-week basis. Pretty straightforward. How the in-season cup works is the team who wins the previous year starts out with that in-season cup. If they win their first game, then they keep the cup. If they lose it, then the cup passes on to the team that they lost to. And now they are the owner of the in-season cup. And every time you win while the cup is in your possession, you accumulate points. So we locked it up. We're in first place right now. Suffered our first loss last week. In second place, you have the Hounds, who had a gritty win the other day against the Degenerates. Now, I've spoken about this rivalry at nauseum. This is one of the best rivalries at Nerc, if not the best rivalry at Nerc. Now, the rivalry has kind of become almost like a faux situation, right? Where there is respect on both sides. So it's cool because though they have the respect, when they're on the rink, it is no holds bar. It is still as intense as ever. And this one came down to the wire. I might post a video. The ref did make the right call. The puck went in as the clock was at 0. It was milliseconds away, probably 0.01 seconds away from being a good goal. And in a situation like that, as a ref, there was some, kind of a scrum in the corner, not as far as like a physical altercation, but 2 guys came together and fell. So the ref's watching that. The high ref is watching the play, is watching the net. And it was one of those things where, the refs did get together. They did agree that the puck went in after, and it was the right call. Crazy enough, Devo, our kind of tech guy for the Nerc, has added the clock in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. So it would be like kind of here on the live stream, and you could see it at 0. And then you finally see the puck kind of cross the line after that. And you could see it very distinctly at like 0 hitting a shin guard of a player in front of the net. And then after that, it goes in. So it was really close. Paul Sotrom played it to the last second. And if you're DHC, you're going to celebrate like it was anyway. And even if you didn't know, and they probably didn't because it was such a bang bang play, you're going to pretend you're going to celebrate like you did. So third place, you have the Stickheads, who, in my opinion, probably the hardest team to play in that division, just because they do have some firepower and they're really good at kind of counter punching. So they're sitting in third right now. But again, looking at it, you have Liberty and DHC both with 8 games played. So what's really cool about this division, then Degenerates in last place here. But if you look at this, Degenerates with 1 more game, they could jump to Stickheads depending on what happens with them. On the other side of things, you got the Hounds that could get jumped by the Stickheads if Stickheads go in and win a couple games. So it's kind of all over the map here, depending what happens. So going to be an interesting end to the season. We'll see how kind of it all pans out. In our Bronze Early Division, this is where, we have more teams here. So our Bronze Early Division is going to be an 18 division along with our Bronze Late. So we can kind of just see both of them here. In our Bronze Early Division, the Gobble ever since Joe Schweizer, I'll give him a shout out here, took over the Gobble, their social media presence has kind of fallen off just because, we don't have Ocho kind of doing crazy shit every week. But their play on the rink has escalated. This team is firing on all cylinders right now. They've picked up some new guys, and they're really doing well with it. I mean, Keith Crozier is a big part of that. He's a guy that carries a lot of the weight on his shoulders for that team. But they've been firing on all cylinders, and they've been at the top of the standings. They didn't win it last year. They lost an OT from what I remember to Brick House, but they're a team that is probably the heavy favorite this year, still undefeated at this point. So 2 overtime wins. So they've had 2 games go the distance, but still undefeated at this point. Right below them is Brick House Tigers, who are in the same boat. They do have an overtime loss, though, so they're only sitting 1 point behind them. So they're the 2 teams from Bronze A last year that were the champions that are still reigning supreme in this regular season thus far. In third place, you have the Pylons, who had a really good game last week. Kind of battle back and forth with the Gabagool. So it was good to see there. Wolfpack sitting in fourth place. Now, some of these teams, and I'll just say this now, took a tie on the week of the Eagles. So the standings are a little bit skewed, but they're not changing. How I did the tie is you basically received the game played, but you did not get any points. So people were asking why I didn't give 1 point to each team. Well, first off, you didn't play a game, so you don't deserve a point. You could have played during the Eagles game. It would have lasted one quarter. There were plenty of teams that did play. They missed a quarter. There was food. There was, everything up there. The game was on. Guys hung around. I mean, during the NFC Championship, we had guys that sat there the entire time, ate pizza, hung out, and waited till their late game. I mean, it is what it is, guys. Like, you can't cancel just because the Eagles are playing. But so how it's working is you get the game played because the game played does matter, meaning that if a team were to have 9 games played at the end of the season and the same amount of points as another team, they would actually be higher in the standings. So you have to have that game played in order to kind of balance it all out. In fifth place, we have the Creek Monsters. They're kind of climbing these standings here. It'd be interested to see if they make it into that top bracket. It really comes down to who shows up. You got guys like Ryan Wilson, Brian Wilson, Kyle Doherty, Chris Hartman. Like, these guys can all play. Dave Jerry, they can all play, but it's just depending on who shows up. So I know they've had some help goaltending the past, couple games. They had Pat Heck filling in just because Brian Swiss works at Xfinity Live. So he was working the Eagles games. Obviously, that's not going to be a factor moving forward. And since we do have games this week. In sixth place, you have the Thundercats. So the Thundercats are a team that have had a little bit of a roster change. So they're kind of sitting in that bottom half right now, but they're 1 win away from being in that top bracket as well. So we'll see what happens with there. This 4 through 6 can really all change. And then 7 and 8 aren't going to change at this point. Inebriators in 8th place and Honeybees in 7th. Inebriators, the only team, without a win. They do have an overtime loss, so they do have a point there. But they're the only team without a win thus at this point. But again, once against the playoffs with those guys, you never know what can happen. The Inebriators, I've seen them go over for the entire season and win, the first 2 playoff games and make it to a championship. So we'll see what happens with them. In our Bronze Late division, it's funny because it's kind of a lot of the same as the Bronze Early. A lot of people were kind of complaining that the Bronze division had some sandbagging teams. Now, obviously, the Hippos and the Gang, just like the Gabagools and Brickhouse in the upper division, these guys could probably all be one division. And I've spoken about this before. If I could get all these teams on Sunday just to play at any time during the day, I would, but it's just not how it works, unfortunately, because I would love to have a division of, kind of Gabagools, Brickhouse, Hippos, Gang, Gladiators, Pylons. I would love that to be just its own division, but unfortunately, it's just not how the cookie crumbles here. So, but if you look at the middle here, let's just call it 3 through 7. I mean, all these, or 3 through really 5, I guess, all these teams have a chance to jump each other here. And even 3 to 2 has a chance to jump each other. So there is a lot of parity in the league, and that's why we do the split for playoffs. So Hippos sitting at the top of the standings. They only have 1 loss, and that was to the Gang. That game was wild as can be. I think it was like a 10-9 game or something like that. So it was a really wild game. Both goaltenders actually played pretty decent for it being that high scoring of a game, but it was just 0 defense being played. It was the night of the NFC Championship. So maybe guys were just a little bit tipsy and didn't feel like back-checking. The Gang, impressed by them. They're a team that started, they used to be like a lower half champions. They won back-to-back Bronze B late championships. And they made their way and won a Bronze Late A championship last year. So they're a team that has really risen through the rankings. Sean Lloyd is a big part of that. He hasn't been there past few weeks that I've seen. Not sure if he was there last week, but he's a guy that when he wants to turn it on, he could really put that team on his back and turn it on for them. Gladiators are another interesting team. When they have Jaden Golden, it's a lot different a team from when they don't have Jaden Golden. So he's another one that I'll give Jaden credit. He could be a guy that can go and probably, 1 out of every 2 shifts, and he doesn't. If the team's down, then he starts to push the pace a little bit and try to make something of it and try to get his team back in it. But ultimately, a good kid for them. Law Dogs, big surprise. They're hopping up in this top half of the standings. It's the first time the Law Dogs have been in the top half, what we would consider the Bronze League A division. So, pumped for them to kind of grow in their own rights. I know Frank has done some recruiting on his end. He's picked up a few decent little players there. Jimmy Smith, a big part of that. Devo showed up that NFC Championship night game and was a little bit tipsy and was sniping. I think he had like 4 points that night. So, shout out to Deves, our CTO. In fifth place, we have the Bumblehawks. Bumblehawks, again, they're a team that I feel like they could be a little bit better depending on who they have. Lenny and Net's definitely helping them out a little bit. So they're a team that could jump up, but I think they're going to wind up kind of falling in the second half. I think there's a little more. I think this one's a little more set than the Bronze Early. Bronze Early, you really have a bunch of teams that could jump each other. And this one, it's really, the Bumblehawks can, but I think they're a team that would probably even look at the standings and be like, we want to play in that lower half. And right behind them is the Meal Boosters. They're basically tied with the Stranglers. It came down to just goal differential, it looks like. So their differential is actually worse. So it got to be head-to-head is the reason they're ahead at this point, because their goals for are exactly the same. The goals against is a little higher for the Meal Boosters, so it's got to be a head-to-head there. Stranglers in 7th place, and then the only team without a win, the Trash Pandas, in last place. Stranglers, real quickly, I know they've had like a weird season as well. It sounds like Jared, their captain, is going to kind of get everything back even keel for the rest of the season. His roster's kind of looks like it's kind of more shaping up to be what he wanted it to be. And then the Trash Pandas, again, they're a team that I've seen go over, kind of like the Inebriators, had a rough regular season, but somehow get a first playoff win. Again, going to depend who they have in net. They've had kind of a carousel of goaltenders, and we'll see what happens with them. It'll be interested to see them in 2 weeks from now. So how it's working for Sundays for the next 2 weeks, we're going to have our Bronze Early and 1 silver game that are going to be playing this week. That'll get all these silver teams back on the same number of games played, and then we'll have 1 final week. Not after that, but the following week, since there's a roller derby tournament during the day, we're only going to play the bronze late. So how it worked is basically, if you look at our week 8 games, you're going to have half of week 8 played this week of the Super Bowl, and the other half play the week after the Super Bowl, and then we'll all come back together for the final week for silver, which would be week 9, and then they'll start their playoffs the following week of the 10th game for the rest of the team. So going to be interesting. It's going to be sweet. The best of 3 series, really looking forward to in that silver division. And then all the other playoffs, really interested to see how it pans out with the split. All right, now moving on to the weeknight division. That was a lot of time spent on that Sunday division. Looking at the weeknight division, again, with adding the new division names of platinum and then moving it down from gold to silver, etc. So we're looking at our platinum division being our top division now, which kind of replaced our draft league. Got some exciting news on how we're going to do draft league in the summertime and fall moving forward, kind of how it's going to work. So a lot of the guys in draft league and in the platinum and gold all play what's called PIHA. So it's a travel league. I think a bunch of us are over the travel aspect of it. I know that the team, the Deuces, we just hung their banner. I think they may be looking to get back into PIHA, but we'll see how that goes after this news is released. But essentially, we're going to run our own version of PIHA out of our rink so we don't have to travel anymore. I know my team personally last year had a hell of a time with attendance. I mean, we also had a shit schedule with traveling the weekend before Thanksgiving and then a week before Christmas. And, you're talking about a New York trip and you're talking about a Pittsburgh trip. One trip we had to completely cancel. And most of the guys basically told me like, hey, we're over the travel aspect of it. So we're going to be done with PIHA. We're going to just kind of move into our own little PIHA at our own rink. And I'm going to try to get a bunch of the more local guys and even if they're from New Jersey and stuff like that, say, hey, listen, let's run our own little draft style PIHA out of Nerc on Saturdays, 1 Saturday a month from November, December, January, February, do playoffs and do all the playoffs like on a weekend in March and maybe do a full weekend of playoffs, depending how we want to work it out. Where, let's just say we have 6 teams. We could do a 3 through 6, kind of play in and then reseed for your semifinals and do best of threes in both of those. And we could run it as like a 2-day event. That's kind of how I want to do it, is take what was Draft League on Thursday nights, because we really just don't have the time slots for it anymore, and take Pie Hot and all those guys that are in there and add in a few guys as well, and kind of combine it where you're going to have really, how Draft League always was you have your, let's just call it the pro guys as one line, and then you have your semi-pro and minor guys as like your second line. And that's how I want to do it, is every team with 9 guys, and you kind of split it up like that. So I think it could be something really cool that we do for the rink. Keep it local, find local sponsors to sponsor each week. So let's just say we do, November, December, January, or let's just call it October, November, December, January season, February playoffs. So let's call it a 5-week season. We could find 5 sponsors to sponsor those events. Let's say Curly sponsors one of them, and everyone goes back to Curly's on that Saturday night, or Curly's Kitchen, which is Armando's parents. Maybe they cater the event and all the food gets brought to Nerc, and we, book an extra hour for everyone to hang out and eat and things like that. So there's cool things that I think we could do that keep everything local, give back to the local community, give back to the players. I would love to have it where, the players don't even pay for this, eventually, if there was a big enough sponsor to do that. So we'll see how that goes. Got some big things in the work with like local news that I'm trying to get some coverage on to help with that kind of stuff. So we'll see how that all kind of pans out. But for now, sticking with it, our Platinum Division, 5 teams. So one crossover game with the Gold Division, as you can see here, Gold right below it. But our Platinum Division has Kraken sitting at the top of the standings here. Their only loss was to my team, who's in last place. So 1-6 versus 6-1. Kraken was a little bit light. We were light as well, but Kraken sitting at the top of the standings. In second place, we have Advocate Athlete, who've had a rough season as far as attendance goes. We got to get on some of their guys. Barry Needler, where the hell you at? Chris Caldwell, where the hell you at? Just some rough attendance with that team right now. The Beta Whip sitting in third place, another team that's had some rough attendance. Dirty Dogs had great attendance, just not having a great year by their standards. I know that they're used to being one of those teams at the top, but they're also a team you don't want to face in playoffs because they just play such a good roller game. It's a pain in the ass to play against them. My team Fusion sitting in last place. We've had, if you just look at our goals against, it kind of tells the story. 60 goals against. My Lord, we're doubling the amount of goals against that Kraken's given up. So just not good for us right now as a Fusion. But we get in that 4-5 game against the Dogs. Who knows? If we get a win, if we can get our full team to show up, it would be great. I think every week we've had kind of a combination of 5 or 6 different guys show up each week. So hopefully this week I'm going to send out a text to the team, let them know like, hey, fucking show up this week. It's time. Like, we need to like really get it going. It is men's league. I get it. But like, you're paying that money, you might as well show up. In the Gold Division, we had a huge game on Monday night where Burnsy Electric took on the Degenerates, and the Degenerates went up losing that one late in the game. So Burnsy jumped them to take over the first seed. In third place, we have District 5, who I haven't really seen a ton of District 5's games this year. So going to see them this week on Thursday, it looks like. So be interested to see what they're all about. Hawks sitting in 4th place, Renegades in 5th. Now, with a win this week, the Hawks could jump D5. So another big week in the standings here is the Hawks. I think we play the Renegades. So Renegades, again, could tie us now and then take that head-to-head battle. So Gold Division looking really tight. What's really cool about really all these divisions from Gold moving down, aside from, my team with 1 win there, all these divisions, most of the teams have a win besides like your last place teams. All the other teams are very, very close. So we'll go through it in more detail. But looking at it, you have this Gold Division where, the Renegades can hop up into 4th place, and then with another win, hop up into 3rd, a loss from the Ducks. Like, this whole situation can change. The Ducks can hop DHC. Like, everyone can kind of hop the person ahead of them, which is really cool. And that's what you want to see in a division. So in our Silver Division, we have the Deuces at the top of the standings, still undefeated. A lot of people complain about the Deuces. They just play really good roller. Their team, if you look at it on paper, yes, they have Amade, they have Levchenko. These guys could probably play in the Gold Division. But they also have guys that are not playing as much, playing once a week. And, guys that typically play in bronze divisions on their team. But what they have is a team that plays the right way. They play real roller hockey. They don't force the issue. I played goalie for Vantra Avalanche the other night, and we played against the Deuces, and they don't take a ton of chances, but when they take their chances, it's always a 2-on-1, 3-on-2, a breakdown from the other team. That's why they're good. And then they sit back in a box. And I was telling the Vantra guys, if they're sitting back in a box, you have to break the box, and there's only one way to break it. And I'm going to tell everybody in the league, here's the league secret. You pull the puck back, you have guys swinging, and you hit them on the flank. And even if the Deuces know you're doing that, it is very difficult to stop because you're sitting flat-footed and you have guys coming down the wall with speed. So at some point, someone has to make a decision, whether it's your first guy. If the first guy pushes on them, it's a drop pass right back, and then you have the whole middle of the rink to walk down. If the first guy lets him go and it's the second guy that makes a decision on him, then there should be a guy coming through the middle. It should be a pass right to the slot, and it should be a goal. It's very simple how to break the box. They're very good at playing the box, though, and not a lot of teams have the patience to bring the puck back and regroup. Anyway, sitting in second place, you have the Stickheads. Now, the Stickheads, kind of a thrown-together team based off of the old Sharpshooters. So some guys from that, but mostly some new guys for the Stickheads. So they're playing really well. They're right behind the Deuces, only with one loss in the season. Behind them is the Mad Alphers. Mad Alphers, again, another team that everyone's like, oh, they need to hop up a division. Well, they are sitting in third place right now. They are basically almost a 500 team. So they're not too far off from, being right in the middle of the pack. In fourth place, we have the Wet Seals, who Wet Seals are starting to turn it on a little bit. They've had some attendance issues. I've watched some of their games, and I'm like, where the fuck are their players? Like, I know they got guys having kids. They got a couple guys injured, but they usually have like a 12-man roster. So if you can't get 7 of like your normal guys and then use your farm system team, the fellas, to maybe fill in a guy or something like that, like what's going on here? I knew Nick Ritchie was out a little bit, so that might be a little bit of a factor as to why guys weren't showing up, but nevertheless, they're sitting right in the middle of the standings and they're starting to climb. The Kings, another team that should be probably a little higher, but one win and they're kind of back in that mix in that middle of the pack. And because it's a 16 division, and then we got Vantra Avalanche in last place, who, again, when their guys show up, they're a way better team than when they only have a half-kick team. So with these 16 divisions, this is why the 6 teams work so well. You're going to have your 3-6 matchups here. So right now you'd have the Alphers versus the Vantra Avalanche, and then you're going to have your 4-5, which would be the Seals versus the Kings, and then those winners will go on and play the 1-2. That's why I love having these not odd number divisions, these bye divisions, and that's going to work the same way in here. You got your 4-5 matchups, and then your 2-3s, and then your winner plays 4-5. So these wild card games, I'm calling them, are awesome for the league and awesome for the people who get the buys. In our Bronze A division, we have Threat Level Midnight, taken over by Anthony Hearn. Anthony Hearn has retooled this roster, taken over as captain, and he's got them sitting pretty at the top of the standings, not wheelchair pretty. Some people will get that joke, some people won't. Right behind them is Turtle Power. Turtle Power is another team that has some attendance issues. It sounds like they may have lost Vincenzo De Maio, so that's something to look out for. He's one of the leading scorers on that team. He may be out for the season just due to the fact that it sounds like he got a girlfriend and he's being soft about it, to be honest with you. So something to look out for. Right behind them, we have the Hive. Hive might not even be in playoffs if they don't get some payments in. So we'll talk about that separately. I'm just kidding. Pat told me everything's going to be good this week. Looking forward to seeing them tonight. The fellas right behind them, I was very impressed with the fellas in the beginning of the year. Looks like they've had a couple losses as of recent, but look at the OT losses. I mean, they're just losing games in overtime. They still have a plus goal differential. This division's wild because you look at a team like Turtle Power sitting in second place with a minus goal differential, 2 teams below them with both plus goal differentials. And then you have the Wet Sox with a -8, who's another good team that could win this division. And then Carmen's Place, who was a team that was playing against teams like the Kings, like the Deuces, all last year. They were playing in this, what's now Silver Division, which was a Bronze A last year. And they're sitting in last place right now. So very interesting kind of look at everything. as far as what's going on with that Bronze A division, because that Carmen's Place team really is a silver team. I mean, at some point they were. Obviously, guys get a little older and stuff like that, but they're a team that I could see win a 3-6 matchup and then hop up and knock off a top team, just because I saw them 2 years ago take the Kings the distance, the year that the Kings beat Burnsy Electric in the championship in Bronze A. I saw that Carmen's Place team take two teams to the distance and almost upset the establishment and almost make it to the championship as a low seed. So watch out for Carmen's Place. Don't sleep on them. And then in our Bronze B division, now we got a lot going on here. There's a lot of divisions. Bronze B, Copper A, Copper B. We're almost there, halfway through all these weeknight divisions. Bronze B, we got Broforce at the top. Now, Broforce is a team. Last year, I put them in Copper A. They wanted to play Bronze B. I told them, hey, listen, in Copper A, there's really 3 Bronze B teams and 3 upper-level Copper teams. I think this is going to be a really good fit. And that's kind of what this division is, right? You have John, that was a Copper team. The Scorchers registered as a Copper A team, but they have guys playing Copper A, so they had to kind of be split up. Bacon, kind of a Copper A team, and then Rocco's, Nighthawks, and Broforce, all kind of the Bronze B. So we still have that same mix of high-level Copper A's, low-level Copper B's. And to be honest with you, this is a division that literally anyone can win. Last year, Bacon, I don't think, had a win all season, and then they went on to the championship and lost to Threat Level, who Threat Level was a little bit stacked. Now, Threat Level, when they initially submitted their roster, wound up being a little different by game 3, just because guys quit and things like that. And at the end of the day, I don't want to see any captain losing money because the guy quit. So if you have someone who's willing to hop on, pay some money, get in there, as long as they're not like a platinum player or gold player hopping on your team, which they weren't. They were probably on that Bronze A level. I'm going to let them play. So that being said, I mean, this is the most even division. I have, last night we talked about it. Bacon lost to the Scorchers, even though the Scorchers didn't have a goalie. But if Bacon would have won that game last night, they would have been ahead of the Scorchers. So it's like, this is the most even division. Every team is kind of sitting there. Like Broforce only has 2 more wins than the last place team. And the goal differential, obviously, for Bacon, because of the 8 goals that they gave up last night, looking a little interesting. But aside from that, like, every team is sitting at a plus besides the Nighthawks and Bacon. And it's just basically how it works is, like, when they lose big. But every other game, they keep it super close. So most even division. Actually, these bottom 3 are really the most even divisions that we have. In the Copper A division, we have Advocate Copper sitting at the top. So got to give a little shout out to Deeves on that one, because I wanted him to use the Advocate athlete jerseys, and he's definitely showing up for Advocate, putting together a good team, sitting at the top of the standings, undefeated. They play a game tonight. We'll kind of look at the outlook for tonight. Dragons sitting in second place. Dragons forfeiting their game tonight to 43 Oak, so that's going to give 43 Oak another win. Last night, we had the No Names get spanked around by the Flying Hellfish. And then in third place, we have the Wolf Pups, who are playing Advocate, I believe, tonight. So Wolf Pups with a win can jump up above the Dragons, since the Dragons forfeited that game tonight. So going to be interesting there as well. Big game for the Wolf Pups, right? So it's going to be good night of hockey tonight up there. Copper A division all kind of showing up here tonight. Really would have been 2 big Copper A games, to be honest, because 43 Oak, even though they got the win, let's just say they beat the Dragons in a non-forfeit situation, they would have jumped, right? So you got Flying Hellfish with a big win last night, kind of keeping them in the mix. And again, besides Advocate, Dragons with 5 wins, Wolf Pups 4, No Names 3, 43 Oak and Flying Hellfish 2-2. Now, 43 Oak and Flying Hellfish could have been teams that maybe sat in the Copper B division. But 43 Oak, and I said this last year, I was doing this. If you won the Copper B, you were getting relegated up, and then we were relegating other teams down. So 2 Utes got relegated down, 43 Oak got relegated up. And Flying Hellfish, when I looked at the standings last year, they were sitting in the top 4. So that's kind of why those teams wound up in those divisions. In Copper B, we have a new team, Healthy Scratches, with a new logo on the website as well. They're sitting at the top of the standings. They're a team, now that they've got a season under their belt, these guys are practicing up at Nerc. They are practicing on Fridays up at Nerc, running fucking drills, passing, weave drills, the whole 9. So give them credit for putting in the work. They're a team that next season. It sounds like they're going to be back. They're probably going to jump up in the Copper A division. They're going to be one of those teams that I think, because they have a couple guys who can really play, they're going to have to play Copper A, and then we can move a team down. With the two Utes, who Devo thought they were going to have a rough season, sitting in second place. In third place, we have the Bad News Bears. They were involved in that altercation with Cafe Carmela. And then we have Turbulence and Cafe Carmela following them. Cafe Carms with a big win over Turbulence last night, despite having a few players suspended. And then we have the free agents. Again, they're a free agent team. None of these guys have played together. They have come together. They have an overtime loss, so they do have a point on the board. But they're sitting with 0 wins right now. But they are a team that is the most positive team. I'm in the group chat. Most positive team I've ever seen. These guys, even when they lose, when they were losing big in the beginning, I think they were a little down on themselves. But now that they're losing these games by 1 or 2 goals, like this minus 31 that you see here is really due to like the first 3 games, and everything else has been pretty close. But now, they need what the free agents need is next season. And I think they've already been talking about this, is picking up a good player that can put some pucks in the net for them, because they just don't have enough firepower right now. If you look at all the other teams in their division, a team like Cafe Carmela, who is a free agent team as well with 48 goals. I mean, you got to have some more scoring in roller hockey, and right now they just don't have it. I mean, Turbulence is a team that doesn't score a ton. They got 10 more goals. Bad News Bears is a team that doesn't score a ton. 10 more goals. 2 Utes, 10 more goals. I mean, you're looking at it, that's another goal a game plus. So it's something where they just need to put the puck in the net a little bit more, and I think they're going to be totally fine. Again, in a 3-6 matchup right now, they're playing the Bad News Bears. They lost to them 4-0 the other day. They're missing a guy, but like aside from that, it was a really good game. And if they could find some scoring and they just buried the puck a few more times, that was a 4-2 game, in my opinion. So really close game in regards to that. So we'll do a quick, just kind of look at the schedule tonight, since we do have some games tonight. Just kind of pick up my favorites. This Hive and Carmen's Place one, as we were just looking at, this is like a 3-6 matchup that we're looking at for playoffs if the season was to end today. 2 Utes and Healthy Scratches. That's a battle of the top 2 teams in the Copper A or Copper B division. Stickheads and the Kings. That's going to be a good one. I'm looking forward to that one. I haven't really got to see the Stickheads play a lot, so I'm very interested to see them play. And the Kings, I'm really interested to see if they can kind of find their groove here. Then we have Wolf Pups and Advocate Copper. So it's a battle of the 2-3 matchup in the Copper A division. So interested, or 1-3 matchup in the Copper A division. So very interested in that one. And then the last game of the night is canceled due to the Dragons not having enough guys. So they took the L on that one. Very interestingly enough, the Dragons only can play Tuesday games. I have 40 teams during the week. I give them 1 Wednesday game in 3 seasons, and they cancel it. So very suspect. But nevertheless, 43 Oak, I know they were just happy to get the win, to be honest with you. And I hate doing forfeits. And we're just going to talk about this. People complain about forfeit fees. Well, here's the reason we do forfeit fees. 1, the referees, whether you like them, hate them, whatever, they expect to have that game, right? So I do pay the referees that forfeit fee. 2, it sucks when you forfeit because the other team now loses a game that they get to play in the regular season. So originally I wanted to make the forfeit fee $120 to take that extra $40 and cover the team you're playing against next ref fees. And that might go into, that might be enforced next year. So if you can't get 5 guys and a goalie to show up for your men's league game, no matter what day or what time it is, then that sounds like it's more of a deeper problem. Now, injuries can play an issue to that. I get it. Guys with prior commitments can play an issue to that. I get it, right? But at the end of the day, you should be able to field at least 5 guys. And even if you go and you get beat up a little bit, you get a workout for a few hours, right? Like what is the big deal to go up there, play 45-minute game, get to hang out with your boys, get to see the guys and lose a game. Like at the end of the day, it's men's league. You should be really looking to just get a sweat in and stay a little bit active. So that's it. No more news. Then, we did unveil some new social media things, live streaming, finally back on the weekend recaps, weekly recaps. Instagram. We're going to be doing a podcast here soon. So pretty much how the podcast is going to work is I'm going to do one in the beginning of every year, and then I'm going to do one at the start of playoffs, and then at the end of playoffs. So we'll get 3 podcasts a season, and along with some of these weekly updates in there. But I think the biggest thing that we've seen, which can be found on the media page that we have on the website, is the YouTube channel. If you look at this, I'm just going to pull it up here. With our YouTube channel, we have had, and we're live right now, as you guys can see. Oh, you can't see because it didn't click to it, but we've had a ton of action on our YouTube channel. So I'm really happy about the YouTube and how well it's been going. We've had, let's see, looking at it, we started out with like 30 subscribers. We're now up to 111 subscribers. We have 63 videos. When we started out, we had like 6 videos. We're offering sponsorship options on this part. Let me go back here on this part of the screen. Diva has recently ordered or added the scoreboard in this corner. So it's been really cool and we're going to go to this YouTube screen. So it should switch here. Perfect. So you can see here, we have the scoreboard here. We have the Atlas Concrete Coatings, which is my company, as far as the advertisement goes. So it's really cool that we're really growing this channel and doing as much as we can. And before, you can see I did a couple of videos with Draft League in the past. We've had some weekly update videos here. But all of our live stuff, if you want to go and watch your games, you just go here. And it's the one thing I do want to do probably for next season, dating some of these so they don't just say Nerc Hockey Live or Nerc Live Stream, whatever it is. Eventually we will get to dating these things, but you can see even like the test video came out really good. And we've done a few things over the past few weeks as far as changing the cameras. You can see here the original camera we had didn't get the whole other end. And as we upgraded here, you could see the whole rink besides really this corner and this corner. So we've really kind of upped our game with that. And even the view, like these are a little further out. And we're able to zoom in a little bit on some of these, mess with the lighting a little bit. So we've gotten it down to a pretty good science. I mean, we even have Pi-Ha games on here from when our pro team played Pi-Ha. So you could see that, it's pretty cool, pretty decent viewing. So not bad at all for, just a steady stream of live streaming for every night for no charge. I mean, typically, with things like Live Barn, something you have to pay for. We've got it down where this is at no charge, and you're kind of just able to watch on YouTube, replay it. You can go clip things on here as well. So you can see that there's a little clip feature, so you can clip things, you could share it, download it, whatever you need to do. I think YouTube's the best platform for it. We will be looking at in the off season or in between seasons, probably upgrading the camera. Right now, this is a 4K camera, but with kind of the bandwidth that we have in the rink, it doesn't come out 4K, obviously, but you're getting enough out of it, I think. What I would like to do is get a 180-degree view. Right now, it's at a 120. To get 180, that would be ideal, and I can maybe move the camera a little more central to center ice so you can see the full wingspan of the rink, kind of like we had in this Nerc video. If I can go and find it here, we had Nerc Draft League right here. As you can see here, a nice little intro. But you can see, I would like to get it more central like this, where you could have a little more width. This is the old floor, which looks crazy now to me at this point, but this is a little more central. So I would eventually like to get it to where this is kind of the view where you could see a little more panoramic view, maybe move it, a little higher so you can get the full rink, but pretty cool that we were able to do this at some point as well. So definitely missed the Draft League. I missed kind of the camaraderie with the Draft League and the pizzas, the beers, the whole nine. So we're definitely going to bring it back. I think it's just going to move to more of a Saturday thing. So that's it for this update. Make sure to follow us on all the social media accounts and check out for more updates coming in the future.